Welcome back to ABC General Hospital Spoilers channel. Today, we will learn about the explosive confrontation brewing between Willow Tate and Michael Corinthos that will shake Port Charles to its core on Thursday, November 13th. The drama reaches fever pitch as multiple crises collide, families fracture under pressure, and dangerous secrets threaten to destroy everything in their path. Willow's explosive accusation rocks the Metro Court. The tranquil atmosphere of the Metro Court Gardens will be shattered when Willow Tate makes an unexpected and bold appearance that catches everyone off guard. After being released on bail through Alexis Davis's tireless legal maneuvering, Willow isn't wasting any time hiding in the shadows or playing it safe. On Tuesday's episode, she witnessed something that ignited a fire of rage within her. Michael sitting casually at a table with their son and Jacinda, acting as if everything was perfectly normal in their fractured family dynamic. The sight of this cozy domestic scene was the final straw that broke through Willow's restraint. Rather than retreating quietly or avoiding confrontation as some might expect from someone in her precarious legal situation, Willow will march directly up to Michael with steel in her spine and fury blazing in her eyes. Her accusation will cut through the air like a knife. "I know you put that gun in my room," she'll declare, her voice trembling with a volatile mixture of betrayal, anger, and devastation. This isn't just about the weapon itself. It represents the ultimate betrayal from the man she once trusted with her whole heart, the father of her children, and the person who swore to protect her through anything. The question hanging in the charged air between them is whether Michael will maintain his innocence and deny the allegation, or whether he'll finally reveal that he knows the truth about what really happened the night Drew Kane was shot. Laura's growing fears for Rocco's safety. Across town, Port Charles Mayor Laura Collins finds herself consumed with worry about her grandson Rocco Falconeri, and she's seeking counsel from the one person she trusts implicitly, her brother Martin Gray. The sneak peek reveals Laura confiding her deepest concerns with a gravity that speaks to the seriousness of the situation unfolding. "I'm concerned that Rocco might get caught in the crossfire," she admits, her mayoral composure cracking to reveal a grandmother's raw fear. But what crossfire is she referring to? And why does she believe her grandson is in imminent danger? The threat Laura perceives isn't merely metaphorical. General Hospital spoilers indicate that Rocco and his group of adventurous friends have embarked on a reckless mission that could have devastating consequences. The teenagers have apparently decided to break into Henry Dalton's private laboratory, driven by curiosity, teenage bravado, or perhaps information they've uncovered that they believe needs investigating. Laura's political instincts and life experience have given her a sixth sense for trouble, and she can feel the storm gathering around her grandson. If Henry discovers these kids infiltrating his secure facility, there's no telling what kind of reaction it might provoke or what dangerous secrets they might stumble upon. Martin will undoubtedly offer his legal expertise and brotherly support, but will it be enough to keep Rocco safe from whatever consequences await his risky adventure? Brooklyn's desperate vigil for Ned. The Quartermaine family faces their own heart-wrenching crisis as Ned Quartermaine fights for his life following a sudden and severe heart attack. Brooklyn Quartermaine is absolutely beside herself with fear, her world tilting dangerously as she contemplates the possibility of losing her father. Standing in the hospital corridor beside an equally distraught Olivia Quartermaine, Brooklyn's voice breaks with emotion as she pleads for any scrap of good news. "Please tell me my dad's going to be okay," she begs, her eyes searching desperately for reassurance from the medical staff. The sight of her normally vibrant and strong father lying vulnerable in a hospital bed has shaken Brooklyn to her core. Ned has always been her rock, her champion, and the one constant in her often chaotic life. The thought of a world without him is simply unbearable. Thankfully, she won't have to face this nightmare alone. Harrison Chase, her devoted husband and the love of her life, will be right there by her side, providing the emotional support and steady presence she desperately needs during this terrifying ordeal. Chase understands the depth of Brooklyn's bond with her father, and he'll do everything in his power to keep her strong while they wait for news. But the critical question remains unanswered. Will Ned's heart prove strong enough to pull him through this medical emergency? Or is the Quartermain family about to suffer an unimaginable loss? Alexis issues a stern warning to Drew. Meanwhile, in another corner of Port Charles, Alexis Davis finds it necessary to have a very direct and serious conversation with Congressman Drew Cain. As Willow's attorney, Alexis has worked tirelessly to secure her client's release on bail, navigating complex legal waters and putting her considerable reputation on the line. Now that Willow is temporarily free, Alexis wants to make absolutely certain that Drew understands the fragility of the situation and the importance of avoiding any additional complications. Anything other than that is a distraction that could cost her her freedom. Alexis will warn Drew with the full weight of her legal authority and personal conviction. What she's really saying is that Drew needs to step back, stay away, and stop creating waves that could capsize Willow's already precarious legal position. Drew's relationship with Willow has become a powder keg of complications. Their affair, the shooting, and the tangled web of consequences that followed have created a situation where every interaction between them is scrutinized and potentially damaging. Alexis, ever the pragmatic and strategic attorney, recognizes that the prosecution would love nothing more than to use Drew's continued involvement in Willow's life as evidence of her guilt or instability. Will Drew heed Alexis's warning and maintain his distance, or will his feelings for Willow prove too powerful to suppress? Additional Port Charles drama unfolds. Beyond these central storylines, several other significant developments will unfold across Port Charles on Thursday. Jason Morgan, the reliable and stoic enforcer with a surprisingly gentle heart, will take time to offer encouragement to Britt Westburn as she faces her own challenges. Whatever situation Britt finds herself navigating, she can count on Jason to provide support, but their conversation will be interrupted by someone whose arrival changes the dynamic entirely. Who will burst into their private moment, and what news or crisis will they bring? Elsewhere, young Emma Scorpio will demonstrate the compassionate and caring nature she inherited from her family by being there for Joe Palmieri during what appears to be a difficult time. The Scorpio family has always valued loyalty and friendship, and Emma is proving herself to be a true member of that legacy. Whatever Joe is going through, he's fortunate to have Emma in his corner. The moment of truth between Willow and Michael. But all roads lead back to that crucial confrontation in the Metro Court Gardens, where the future of multiple families hangs in the balance. Michael's shock at seeing Willow approach him is palpable. He clearly wasn't expecting her to be out on bail so quickly, and he certainly wasn't prepared for her to directly accuse him of framing her. The revelation that Willow believes Michael planted the gun that ties her to Drew's shooting represents a complete breakdown of whatever trust might have remained between them. Now Michael stands at a crossroads. He can continue playing whatever game he's been orchestrating, denying his involvement and maintaining his facade of innocence. Or he can drop the pretense entirely and confront Willow with his own knowledge that he believes she's the one who pulled the trigger and shot Drew. Either choice will have massive repercussions that ripple through Port Charles. If Michael admits to planting evidence, he's confessing to a serious crime and potentially destroying his own freedom. If he accuses Willow directly, he's escalating a war between them that will devastate their children and tear apart the extended Corinthos Quartermain family. The tension in the Metro Court Gardens will be thick enough to cut with a knife as these former lovers face off, both convinced of the other's betrayal, both wounded beyond measure, and both standing on the precipice of decisions that cannot be undone. Their son is right there, an innocent witness to his parents' bitter conflict, and Jacinda's presence adds another layer of complexity to an already combustible situation. Next, we will learn about the issue of how Drew Cain's heartless actions outside Bobby's may have just sealed his fate with the most dangerous Quartermain of them all, Tracy Quartermain. Tracy's peaceful paradise about to shatter, right at this very moment. While chaos unfolds in Port Charles, Tracy Quartermain is completely oblivious to the catastrophe that just happened to her beloved son. She's currently enjoying the finest things France has to offer: luxurious spa treatments with champagne exclusive wine tastings at private vineyards, and strutting through the streets of Paris in those designer scarves that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Tracy has earned this vacation after everything she's been through. After finally reclaiming the mansion that rightfully belongs to her according to Monica's wishes. She's living her best life, reminding everyone in Europe exactly why the Quartermaine name commands respect wherever she goes. But that blissful European escape is about to be shattered into a million pieces. Because Tracy has absolutely no clue that her son Ned nearly collapsed and potentially died on the cold ground outside Bobby's during Monday's episode. She doesn't know that Drew Kane Allen's biological son, the man who keeps demanding his Quartermaine birthright, stood there and laughed while Ned was experiencing genuine cardiac distress. And she certainly has no idea that Drew made the calculated, cold-blooded decision to simply walk away, leaving Ned alone and helpless during a medical crisis. The phone call that changes everything. When that phone call comes through to Tracy's luxury hotel in France, and it will come, probably from Brooklyn or Olivia. Both frantic and terrified, Drew Kane better start making some serious preparations. He should pack his bags, hire an entire security team, maybe even consider entering witness protection. Because Tracy Quartermaine's wrath is legendary, and what Drew did to Ned crosses every single line imaginable. This woman has taken down corporate giants, destroyed business empires, and made grown men cry in boardrooms across multiple continents. And now Drew has given her the ultimate motivation for revenge. He endangered her son's life. The medical emergency everyone missed. The episode began with such innocent normalcy that nobody could have predicted the nightmare that was coming. Ned walked into Bobby's feeling optimistic and energized, excited about finally bringing the Quartermaine family heirlooms back to the mansion where they belong. He ran into Joe at the coffee counter, and the two had a warm conversation about family legacy, tradition, and the importance of preserving Quartermaine history. Ned expressed genuine gratitude to Joe for helping Tracy see through Ronnie's manipulative scheme, acknowledging how crucial that support was during a difficult time. They discussed the significance of those heirlooms, generations of photographs capturing birthdays, weddings, and milestone moments, documents detailing the family's business achievements and personal struggles, treasured mementos that told the story of who the Quartermaines really are. But here's the terrifying thing that viewers are only realizing now as we look back at that scene: the warning signs were already there. Medical experts who've analyzed the episode have pointed out that Ned was exhibiting textbook early symptoms of cardiac distress throughout that entire conversation. His breathing pattern was noticeably heavier than normal, with subtle changes in his speech rhythm that suggest he was already struggling. At one point during the chat with Joe, Ned made what seemed like a throwaway comment about possibly eating too much at breakfast because his stomach felt unusually full and uncomfortable. Those of us watching at home probably dismissed it as nothing, just Ned being Ned, maybe joking about Cook's generous portions at the mansion. But cardiac specialists have confirmed that this sensation of fullness, especially in the upper abdomen, is actually one of the classic warning signs of an impending heart attack that people often misinterpret as indigestion. The devastating phone call. As Ned stepped outside into the fresh air, still feeling that nagging discomfort, but not recognizing it for the emergency it was, he pulled out his phone to check on something that mattered deeply to him: the delivery status of those precious family treasures. The moving company was supposed to transport multiple boxes of irreplaceable Quartermaine heirlooms from storage to the mansion now that Tracy officially owned the property. These weren't just random items that could be replaced with a shopping trip. We're talking about photographs of Edward and Leela from their early marriage, business documents signed by generations of Quartermaine patriarchs, personal letters exchanged between family members during pivotal moments in Port Charles history. Some of these items dated back over a century, representing the foundation of everything the Quartermaine family built. When the moving company representative answered Ned's call, the news was absolutely devastating. The boxes were missing, gone. The movers had no idea where those precious family treasures had ended up. Can you imagine the panic, the horror, the absolute gut-wrenching fear? Ned must have felt in that moment? All those irreplaceable pieces of family history photographs that captured moments never to be repeated, documents that could never be recreated, mementos with sentimental value beyond any price tag just vanished into thin air? For someone like Ned, who takes his role as Quartermain family guardian so seriously, this wasn't just an inconvenience or a logistical problem. This was a catastrophic failure on his watch. Drew's calculated cruelty revealed. And then, just as Ned was spiraling into panic mode while trying to get answers from the confused moving company, Drew Kane appeared. He came strolling up with that smug expression, clearly having overheard enough of Ned's phone conversation to understand exactly what was happening. And what did Drew do with this knowledge? Did he offer sympathy? Did he help search for the missing boxes? Did he show even a shred of family loyalty or basic human decency? No. Drew proudly announced that those boxes weren't lost at all. They were exactly where he wanted them at HI's house. Drew had deliberately, calculatedly intercepted the Quartermain family heirlooms and had them shipped to his residence instead of the mansion. This was premeditated theft dressed up as some twisted claim to family rights. Drew actually stood there and argued that because he's Alan Quartermain's biological son, he has just as much right to those heirlooms as Ned does. Let that sink in for a moment. Drew Kane, the man who lived most of his life with zero memories of being a Quartermain, who has no emotional connection to the people and moments captured in those photographs, who wasn't present for why of the family history documented in those boxes believes he deserves them just as much as Ned. Ned, who grew up in that mansion, who knew Edward and Leela intimately, who has actual memories connected to those heirlooms, who understands the stories behind each item. Monica's will specifically and deliberately left the mansion and its contents to Tracy, establishing a clear legal line of inheritance. But Drew doesn't care about Monica's wishes or legal documents or family bonds or shared history. This was pure vindictive spite, calculated to cause maximum pain. The confrontation turns deadly. Ned's response was completely justified and honestly more restrained than Drew deserved. He exploded with righteous fury, calling out this action for exactly what it was: theft motivated by pure malice and petty revenge. Ned shouted that Drew had crossed a legal line, that this wasn't about family rights or Quartermain heritage, that this was deliberate, calculated cruelty designed to hurt Tracy and everyone who stood by her. He threatened legal action, promising to sue Drew into oblivion and make absolutely certain that those heirlooms returned to their rightful home. And that's when everything went from bad to absolutely terrifying. In the middle of confronting Drew's betrayal, with his blood pressure already elevated from the stress and anger, Ned suddenly felt his chest tighten with crushing pressure. His left arm went numb. The discomfort he'd been dismissing all morning exploded into searing pain that radiated through his chest and jaw. Ned grabbed frantically at his chest, his face contorting in agony, and reached out desperately for a nearby chair to keep himself from collapsing completely. This wasn't stress. This wasn't anger. This was a real, serious, life-threatening medical emergency happening right there on the street. Drew's unforgivable response. Any decent human being witnessing this scene would immediately recognize the danger and call 911. Anyone with even basic compassion would rush to help, try to keep Ned conscious, stay with him until paramedics arrived. A family member which Drew constantly claims to be would be terrified, desperate to save Ned's life. But Drew Kane is apparently none of those things. Instead of helping, instead of calling for emergency medical assistance, instead of showing even the slightest concern for a man clearly in cardiac distress, Drew laughed. He actually looked at Ned clutching his chest, struggling to breathe, face pale with pain, and laughed in his face. Drew had the audacity, the cruelty, the absolute evil to mock Ned by saying he was doing a bad job at faking a heart attack. He referenced the infamous incident where Edward Quartermain faked cardiac distress to test Tracy's loyalty decades ago. Drew dismissed Ned's genuine medical emergency as theater, as manipulation, as a performance. And then this is the part that makes your blood run cold. Drew simply walked away. He turned his back on Ned and left him there, alone, collapsing, potentially dying on the ground outside Bobby's. No 911 call, no attempt to get help, nothing. Drew Cain made a conscious, deliberate choice to abandon a family member during a life-threatening medical crisis. The haunting historical parallel. Longtime General Hospital fans are recognizing something absolutely chilling about this moment. It's a deliberate mirror of Tracy Quartermain's most infamous sin. Back in 1980, during one of the show's most memorable storylines, Edward Quartermain decided to test his children's loyalty by faking a heart attack and asking for his medication. Tracy, believing it was another one of her father's manipulative games, refused to give him the pills. That single decision denying Edward his heart medication during what she thought was a loyalty test became the defining mistake of Tracy's life. It got her banished from the family. It became the sin that haunted her for decades. It shaped her entire character arc and influenced every family relationship she had for years afterward. Now we're watching Drew Allen's biological son, the man who's spent years desperately fighting for acceptance as a true Quartermain, commit the exact same sin. But here's what makes Drew's actions even more twisted and unforgivable. His assumption that Ned was faking is based on Quartermain family history that Drew himself wasn't even present for. Drew has no actual memories of being raised as a Quartermain. He didn't grow up hearing these stories firsthand. He probably learned about Edward and Tracy's infamous incident secondhand, maybe from conversations after he arrived in Port Charles. Yet he's weaponizing this family history he has no real connection to justify abandoning someone experiencing a genuine, potentially fatal medical emergency. What happens when Tracy finds out? The real reckoning is still coming. When Tracy gets that phone call from Port Charles, when she learns that her son nearly died while Drew Cain stood there laughing and then walked away, there will be nitrogen monoxide forgiveness. Tracy has spent years trying to balance her fierce protective instincts with efforts to include Drew in the family. She's tried to honor Alan's memory by accepting his biological son. But this crosses every line. Drew didn't just steal some family heirlooms, he endangered Ned's life and then abandoned him to die. Tracy Quartermain's rage will be biblical. Drew Cain has just made the biggest, most catastrophic mistake of his entire life. And when Tracy returns to Port Charles, the entire city will witness exactly what happens when you threaten a Quartermain mother's child.